So hey y'all, I'm back with another video. So tonight's video is yet again another Chioma Chats video on camera edition. Get up out your chair, we about to do that theme song. Chioma Chat, Chioma Chat, Chioma Chat, Chioma Chat, Chioma Chat, say Chioma Chat, Chioma Chat, Chioma Chat, say Chioma Chat, Chioma Chat, say Chioma Chat, Chioma Chat, say grab a snack and bring it back. Hey, Chioma Chat, it's Chioma Chat, say get it, twerk, shake, twerk, come on, and it's Chioma Chat time. Welcome back to another Chioma Chats video. Hope you guys are feeling so highly spirited. You know, recently last week I was really down. Y'all saw my live stream and I just really wasn't myself, but I think mental health is very important. So I do want to let y'all know that, and I do want y'all to try to prioritize that the best you can. There's so many different options for mental health care. And if you can, check on your friends that you think they're always okay and they have it all together. Everybody's dealing with something. So if you can do one thing today, is to text one of your homegirls and friends and just say, hey love, I'm thinking about you. Just wanted to check in on your mental health and I love you. Okay, so by the title, we're going to be talking about the recent controversy surrounding Love Island again, a cast member named Cierra Ortega, and basically how shocked people were that she exited the show and the resurfaced anti-Asian slur that she used that led to all of that. Obviously, it's a lot to unpack. And honestly, the timing, the internet reaction, and like just the broader cultural conversation all collided in a very chaotic way. Like I was like, this is a lot. Let me get some water. So I've been watching all of the discourse unfold, and honestly, when I originally was going to talk about this, I hadn't seen Cierra's apology yet because I was going to film this days ago, but then I saw it, so we're going to talk about that. But I just knew I had to talk about this because this isn't just about her making like, you know, a mistake. I think it's about how we as a society respond to people who mess up in public, and also about how social media basically decides someone's fate before they even get a chance to speak. And also about how language, especially when it's racially charged, can carry a lot of trauma, even if the person using it doesn't realize it at the time. And I think that's what happened. So I've broken this video down into 4 main talking points, basically talking about how, you know, the history behind this word and just how society plays a role in the media and all of that. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. Thank you to Nurex for sponsoring today's video. Y'all, let's be real, life is a lot right now, right? From personal goals to social media to just trying to stay afloat. With that, mental health can quietly take a backseat, and that shouldn't happen. And that is exactly why I want to put y'all on to Nurex. Nurex makes it easier than ever to take control of your health right from home. Whether it's birth control, skincare, weight management, or mental health support, they offer affordable, expert-level care that's tailored to you. And the best part, you don't need to step into a doctor's office whatsoever. Everything happens online. So if you've been struggling with anxiety, depression, or just feeling off lately, Nurex can help you start your treatment journey fast. No more waiting a month just for an appointment, which is super annoying, right? You can fill out your consultation 100% online, and a licensed medical provider will create a treatment plan that fits your unique lifestyle. Mental health care should never feel out of reach. Nurex accepts insurance for many treatments, and even if you're not covered, they work to keep the prices affordable. More than 2/3 of Nurex's mental health patients report a real reduction in their symptoms, which is super great. And that kind of peace of mind is so priceless. So whether you're dealing with anxiety and depression, postpartum shifts, or something even deeper, just know Nurex is here to help. So taking control of your health starts right now. Go to nurex.com/queenchioma to get started, or just click the link in my description. That is NURX.com/QUEENCHIOMA. And thank you to Nurex for sponsoring today's video. So my first talking point is the Cierra Ortega fallout and talking about what actually happened to her. So I'm gonna just start with like the basic timeline. So Cierra goes on Love Island USA season 7. She's a bombshell. A new bombshell has entered the villa. And And, I was like, okay, girl. She was talking about how she has titties. And I was just like, okay, she was cool at first. She's a content creator. She's currently 25 years old. And she basically came in as part of the drama. And the producers definitely wanted to shake something up. Basically, Nick chose Cierra over Bella, which I thought was going to happen. I told y'all in my initial video, Nick is a playboy. I've been said it, but he's not that bad, but he still is what he is. Also, I don't have a problem with Clark. I think she's beautiful. I feel like her and I would get along in real life, but I see that she's just kind of a casualty to people not liking Taylor, which I understand why we don't like Taylor, but that's neither here nor there. But literally just a few episodes into Cierra being there, people online started digging. And I don't know who hates her or who was praying against her, but a lot of people's dirty laundry was coming out this year. And baby, they dug up some things that changed her entire fate on the show. So screenshots resurfaced of Cierra using the word ching. And I'm only saying that just so you guys can get context. I don't mean that to be derogatory or negative. I completely understand why that is, and we'll talk about that as well. But just so y'all know what word it is. But she said this word to describe her eyes in two different posts. One was from way back in 2015 when she was probably a freshman or sophomore in high school. And another one was as recently as 2023 or maybe even last year in 2024. Some people were saying it was in 2019. I saw 2023. I saw 2024. Y'all let me know because some of y'all are better FBI social media agents than I am. So the first selfie where she referenced her smile in her eyes, and then in the second one was after she got Botox, again using that word to describe her eyes. So the backlash was obviously instant. Social media blew up, petitions were launched, people started mass unfollowing her. Like, she reportedly lost over 200,000 followers within like 2 days. That's a lot. Y'all know the usual cancel culture. So eventually the show announced that she had exited, and they said it was due to a personal situation.
Welcome back to Love Island USA. Cierra has left the villa due to a personal situation, leaving Nick officially single.
But let's be real, okay? We all know why she was removed. So her parents later released a statement on her Instagram story asking for compassion, saying that, she hadn't even seen the backlash yet because she was still off the grid, off away from her phone, but that they understand why people are upset. And that statement also called out the cruel messages, the death threats, the harassment that had been directed not just at Cierra, but her family and friends, which I think is very, very rude. But let's check out what they had to say. So they said, as Cierra's parents, this has been one of the most painful weeks of our lives. We've seen the posts, the headlines, the hurt, and the hate. And while Cierra hasn't seen any of it yet, we have. And so have the people who love her. We're not here to justify or ignore what's surfaced. We understand why people are upset, and we know accountability matters. But what's happening online right now has gone far beyond that. The threats, the cruel messages, the attacks on her family and friends, even her supporters, it's heartbreaking. It's uncalled for, and no one deserves that kind of hate, no matter what mistakes they've made. While Cierra is not in the villa anymore, she is still away. She hasn't had the chance to process any of this or speak for herself, but we know our daughter, we know her heart, and when she returns, we believe she'll face this with honesty, growth, and grace. While she'll always be our little girl, she's also a woman, one who will take responsibility in her own time and her own voice. Until then, we're simply asking for compassion, for patience, for basic human decency, not just for her, but for everyone caught in the middle of this. Thank you to those who've continued to show love, even when it's not necessary. With love, her family. Now, I do want y'all to keep in mind that there is a difference between accountability and cruelty. People online were not just disappointed, and they should be, but they were also actively targeting her, doxing her, and going after anyone who defended her. And to be honest, that is not normal. That is mob mentality, okay? You need to join Mob Wives, honestly. Even if someone makes a mistake, and I always want to hold people accountable, there has to be a line where the punishment doesn't outweigh the crime. Because honestly, if we go around trying to destroy people for every single offense, even when they haven't had a chance to grow or respond to it, what are we really doing? Are we actually helping, or are we just performing outrage? And also, I do think it's worth noting that she didn't say the word while on the show. It was from her past, which is still unacceptable, but context does matter, and we'll get on that. She didn't get a chance to address it before she was sent home, and that quick reaction that everybody did, while it was understandable in a public-facing show, it still leaves us asking questions like, did she she even have the space to grow yet or say anything. And she did finally post a statement the other night, and let's check out what Cierra had to say.
I know a lot of people have been waiting for me to speak up about the news that's come to light recently, and now that I've been back in the US for about 48 hours and I've had the chance to process, I now feel like I'm at a space where I can speak about this without being highly emotional, because I am not the victim in this situation. While I was in the villa, there were some posts that resurfaced from my past where I was very naively using an incredibly offensive and derogatory term. And before I get into the details, I want to first start by addressing not just anyone that I have hurt or deeply offended, but most importantly, the entire Asian community. I am deeply, truly, honestly, so sorry. I had no idea that the word held as much pain, as much harm, and came with the history that it did, or I never would have used it. I had no ill intention when I was using it, but that's absolutely no excuse, because intent doesn't excuse ignorance. It just doesn't. And I just need you to know that I am so sorry. But this is not an apology video. This is an accountability video. I do want to hold my hands up and say that I take accountability for using the word, but I do want it to be known that I genuinely had no idea that it was a slur. I had no idea of its meaning, and it wasn't until I made the public story post in 2024 when a follower of mine reached out to correct me and let me know that what I was saying was incredibly hurtful. It was a derogatory term. It was a slur. And in that moment, I was embarrassed. I, of course, immediately deleted the post. I was apologetic, and I educated not only myself on the true meaning and the history of the word, but also anyone around me who was accidentally holding space for this slur. When this person did message me, which I'm so grateful that she did, I had a good conversation with her about it. I made the correction immediately. The word was immediately removed from my vocabulary. And I think right now there are tons of things floating around, different screenshots with different timestamps, and fueling this narrative that I sort of doubled down once people tried to correct me and was like, oh, like, I don't know, I'm still gonna use it. But that was not the case. Like, the truth is that in that moment, the lesson was learned, the word was removed, and it was a true learning moment for me. And I think since that moment, I've done so much growing as an individual, and I've tried my best to educate others who might be accidentally holding space for these types of words that could be offensive in their vocabulary. I completely agree with the network's decision to remove me from the villa. I think that this is something that deserved punishment, and the punishment has absolutely been received for sure. I think the backlash has obviously been very hard to deal with, but I understand that people are kind of confused on why I would have even said it, or why I would have been doubling down and continuing to use it. So I understand where the hate is coming from. And, you know, I can do my best to drown out the noise and pay attention to the truth. But what's been extremely, extremely difficult is the way people are approaching my family and my loved ones. You know, they have had ICE called on them. My family doesn't feel safe in their own home. I'm receiving death threats. Like, there's no need to fight hate with hate. I don't think that that's justice. And if you want to know that you're heard and that I'm sorry and that I will move differently, I promise you that's what will happen. I know that no apology could ever be enough for the harm that I've caused and the offense that's taken place. I know that moving forward, my actions and how I decide to live my life from here on out is gonna speak louder than any apology ever could. But I do need it to be known that I am sorry, and I did mean no harm, and hopefully there are people out there that can use my mistake as a learning moment, and to just be better, because that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take today and tomorrow, and I'm gonna take strides to be better. And all I can ask for is, even if you won't give me forgiveness, if you can just allow me to grow with grace. And hopefully, instead of sitting here and trying to convince you that I am this amazing person who spreads light in the world and celebrates cultures and dynamics and backgrounds, then one day you can see that from me. I'm deeply sorry again, and I thank anyone who's listening.
So moving on to point number 2, why is this word harmful, and also the historical and cultural context? Because obviously people were upset, right? So let's get into why this is such a big deal, this word. Because I saw people online saying like, oh, she didn't mean it that way, or she wasn't talking about anybody but herself, right? I get it, but here's the thing. Intention doesn't always matter when the impact is still harmful. The word is a racial slur that was historically used to degrade and mock Chinese and East Asian people. And I do understand that some people didn't know that, but you know, you have to know that now. It came up during periods of like intense anti-Asian sentiment, particularly in the 19th and early 20th centuries, when Asian immigrants were seen as threats and treated as second-class citizens, similar to African Americans or Black Americans. So that word has always been used to flatten a diverse group of people down to like a single offensive caricature about them. And it's deeply tied to mocking their appearance, especially eye shape, right? And turning that into a punchline. So even though Cierra was only using it to describe herself, she was still drawing from a very harmful stereotype that affects real people. And especially during a time where anti-Asian violence and discrimination has been on the rise, especially since COVID, okay? So words like that definitely carry more weight than ever. The word might feel harmless to someone who didn't grow up understanding its impact, right? But to the people who've been called that in hate and in violence, it's definitely not a joke, right? It's not quirky, it's not just slang. Many Asian Americans have spoke up about this word and how it has basically followed them from childhood to adulthood, and showing up in the classrooms and on the streets, and even in professional spaces we hear it, right? It's a word that triggers memories of being othered or targeted, and I think if you are a minority of any sort, you have to empathize with that. So when someone uses it casually, it kind of reopens those wounds. We can't just pick and choose which slurs are serious based off of popularity or proximity. Just because it's not talked about as much doesn't mean it's any less painful to people that get offended by it. And honestly, the normalization of anti-Asian language in mainstream culture has gone unchecked for very long, okay? Using slurs casually, even if it's meant as a joke, keeps those stereotypes alive, even in Black slurs, right? So it reinforces the idea that certain features are laughable or strange, and it contributes to this larger ecosystem of racism. I mean, come on, whether intentional or not, languages definitely shape perception, right? So yeah, even if she didn't say it to like hurt someone, it doesn't change the fact that people were hurt. And when you have a platform, even if it's years later, even if it's so long later, you are responsible for the things that you say and the things that you post. Moving on to point number 3, the intention, the impact, and the role of social media. And I really want to get into this. So for this point, I did want to ask, did Cierra mean any harm? Like, what do y'all think? My personal opinion, I honestly don't think she did. Like I said earlier, I didn't even know the weight of that word until a few years ago. And growing up in Philadelphia, like I grew up in Philly, I heard it thrown around when people talked about like the corner stores or the food spots being owned by East Asians and primarily Chinese people, not realizing that honestly it is pretty much rooted in racism. So I understand that a lot of people use words without knowing their history. It happens. But again, ignorance doesn't cancel out harm. Like they say, negligence to the law does not mean that you're not going to go to jail, right? It's okay to admit that you didn't know, but once you find out, you have to take accountability. And that's the piece we didn't even get to see with Cierra until after the fact. The backlash came so fast that she didn't even get a chance to respond or apologize, and we all knew like she's away. So people are sitting here trashing her, and she hadn't gotten her phone back, she hadn't made it back to the United States, she hasn't talked to her parents, she hasn't even given herself 24 to 48 hours to catch up on the time zone, right? The internet had already decided her fate. On social media, people weren't just disappointed or calling her out respectfully, which, you know, that's fine. They were threatening her life. I saw those comments. They were sending hate to her family, like I said. And so many times they said, this is alleged, that people were calling ICE on her family because she is a woman of color, and I think she is part Latina, so she maybe is Mexican. I don't know all the way, but that is like too far to call ICE on her family because of this. Calling her disgusting and trying to erase every opportunity that she had is what I saw. And that's not accountability to me. I think that's really punishment. And I think we really need to think of the kind of digital culture that we're creating when we don't give people the space to grow or just even explain certain things. There's a fine line between holding someone accountable and then ruining their life, right? Social media doesn't allow for nuance. Either you're a villain or you're a victim. There's like no in between sometimes. And sometimes people online just want to be mad. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't have been, but they don't necessarily want to grow or get apologies. They just want blood from people. And when you're trending for the wrong reason, it definitely does become a public spectacle instead of a teachable moment. And I think what's even scarier is that this can happen to anyone, okay? One old post, one comment out of context, and suddenly your entire identity is being redefined by strangers, okay? That's a lot of power to give to an algorithm. I always think this is gonna happen to me one day, because when I was 20 years old and I started commentary on YouTube in 2018, there was a lot of things I said, and there's been a lot of growing and learning that I've done since then. And if we want people to actually learn, we have to leave room for that growth. That does not mean we excuse bad behavior, but we also don't need to destroy people just to prove a point. So moving on to point number 4, Love Island, vetting, and the Gen Z cancel culture machine, okay? I have to discuss the reality TV industry and the cultural moment that we're in. Love Island is huge right now, and I've been watching Love Island probably since like season 3 or 4, okay? I remember like Selly, I remember watching it. Love Island has had multiple controversies this season. We've never seen anything like this. First, it was Lisa, who was you leaving, saying the N-word in old podcast clips. And now it's Cierra. So my first question is, who is in charge of vetting these cast members? I need to know, because at this point, y'all know these kids are going to dig. Gen Z has no problem finding your Facebook from 2009 and your deleted tweets, your old Instagram captions. Nothing is ever really gone for real, right? And a lot of us said some very crazy things as middle schoolers and high schoolers. Like, a lot of us did. I know I did, okay? I know I did. So why are producers not doing deeper background checks on these contestants before putting them on such a global platform? Because Love Island exploded. It just feels very careless to me, like you're setting these people up to fail and you're putting your audience in basically an uncomfortable spot when they have to basically reevaluate who they've been rooting for. I don't know if people liked Cierra or not. I didn't really care for her, but I also didn't dislike her. She was just there to me. And about Gen Z, listen, I love y'all. I'm a part of y'all, okay? And I see that we care and we're very loud and we hold people accountable. But sometimes, right, there is no room for redemption in the way how people cancel people. People mess up, people say dumb things. That doesn't mean that they're evil. And I'm not necessarily trying to defend her, but I know that she didn't mean it in that way, but it's still offensive regardless. That just means that people are human, okay? And when someone makes a mistake, the goal should be education and change, not just destruction. I think for you, Lisa, what was different is that you definitely knew that she was saying that with all intent, not necessarily to be offensive, but you can't say that word. She knew that at least. I don't think Cierra realized that this word was a slur, and I don't think she realized that she was using it in the context that was as bad as it was. Also, shout out to Bella, who was, the former Islander who spoke out as a proud Asian American. She was the first to get kicked off this season, but she's been kind of in the loop. And she said that she was heartbroken, but she also said that she doesn't condone hate either. And that's the kind of grace and balance that I'm talking about. Let's read what she had to say. So Bella says, as a proud Asian American woman, I'm deeply appreciative of the Love Island USA producers for taking a stand and making it clear that racism of any kind is not tolerated. When I first saw what my fellow Islanders said on their social media pages, I was incredibly heartbroken. But I wanted to wait until they left the villa and were able to address the situation, genuinely apologize, and commit to learning from the experience before deciding how our relationship would look moving forward. As screenshots continued to surface, it became clear that I could no longer support this person and made the decision to unfollow them a couple of days ago. Asian hate is oftentimes overlooked and dismissed, but being a first-generation American, I have personally witnessed and experienced how real and hurtful comments like these are. It is my hope that this situation can help shed light on how big of an issue anti-Asian hate actually is. Just like so many other Asian Americans, my mom immigrated here to create a better life for her and her future family. Knowing the hardships she and so many others have faced, I could not be silent any longer, because what good is this amazing platform God and you all have given me if I don't use it to amplify the voices of my community? I do not condone bigotry or racism of any kind, but I also don't condone hate either. Please think twice before leaving unkind comments to or about this person. I love you all so much. So some people think that she was just saying that because Cierra came in there and took Nick from her because, you know, that's what happened. But, you know, there could be a little truth to that. But I still feel like what she said was factual. So yeah, like reality TV has become this weird blend of entertainment and moral testing. And I think fans now feel like the judge, the jury, and the executioner. That is a lot of power for a viewing audience. And it's also wild how fast narratives can change. One day someone is a fan favorite. The next day they're being dragged on every single platform. And producers don't always step in to protect them at all. They're in there for the betterment of the show. The show benefits from the drama, but they don't always protect the contestants from the fallout, right? And if we're being real, that is literally the definition of exploitation. Producers need to start including DEI consultants in their casting processes, okay? If you're gonna give someone a platform, you should also be willing to take responsibility for what comes with it. I'm not saying that we should censor people, but have the responsibility to look at who you're casting. Reality stars, influencers, just people you engage with on the internet, even me, are all still human beings. And sometimes I think the internet does forget that. So just overall, my closing thoughts, that's pretty much my, full take on the entire situation with Cierra. I do think that she used a word that was very offensive, right? Point blank, period. I do think there should be consequences for that. And I definitely think she should have been removed from the show. And she also agrees with that, especially when the show is so huge and has a huge platform, especially this season. But I also think this whole thing spiraled into like a digital storm that really lacks compassion and humanity. I don't think people wanted her to learn. I do think people took their dislike of her and really went hard. I don't think she was trying to be offensive at all from, her explanation. And it was kind of unfair that she didn't even get to say anything before people decided that her time was up. And that's what concerns me at times, because I think this is all a learning moment. For Cierra, absolutely. But for all of us, okay, for the producers, the viewers, for anyone who thinks canceling someone is the same as holding them accountable, it kind of really isn't. If we're not leaving room for growth, we're just kind of gatekeeping morality, if you ask me, and that's not sustainable. And it definitely comes with the context. Were you trying to be offensive or were you not? That was the question I asked myself before I formulated my opinion. Was she trying to be offensive or not? And I don't think she was, but at the same time, you got to be accountable, sis, and I guess she was. We need to start asking, what do we really want from people when they mess up? Do we want them to learn? Do we want them to change? Do we want them to apologize? Or do we want them to disappear? Remember, there have been 3 people who have basically offed themselves that were on Love Island because of backlash similar to this. And, I just had to think about that when I was thinking about this whole situation. I do, again, think it depends on the situation, but I think if we want a better culture, we need to model exactly what that looks like. So that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please let me know your commentary on my commentary down below. What do you think? What do you know? Let me know. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, Nurex. If you're dealing with anything mental health related or anything else health related, definitely check them out. I love Nurex, and I think their app and their platform is really helpful for those of us women who just need some type of healthcare and need those types of resources. So use my link, nurex.com/Queen Chioma, to get started today. And last but not least, don't forget to follow me on all of my social media networks, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye, y'all.
Independent bitch, yeah, I'm uncomfortable. Leave them on blue balls, I'm unfuckable. Silly goose, try to run, yeah, I'm unduckable. I'm up like a clip, I ain't never been a hustle. I'm so bad, but I'm not into you, yeah, I'm the shit, that's just how your girl do. Brown baby doll, that's just how your girl voodoo. Y'all steady watching, that's just how your girl Nigerian girl, eat the soup with the food. Cocoa brown, puffed up, your man going cuckoo. Say what you want, but the strip still blue. Say what you want, but your strip still blue. Damn, what up, big daddy, I like how you touch, I like how you grab me, Damn, what up, big daddy, I like how you rub when we get nasty, Damn, what up, big daddy, I like how you put it down on this fatty, Damn, what up, big daddy, I'm like, damn, what up.